So today I've asked Sonja Johnson, our Party Affairs Director, to join us on the DFL Daily. Welcome to the call, Sonja.
Hey, glad to be here. See a lot of folks I know hanging out in the chat, so it's
Of
good to see
course.
you all again.
You are well known, Sonja, in the party for helping us stay organized and on top of caucuses. We came up with a few questions, I think, that will just help folks contextualize the work that you do, Sonja, and then also provide some more information. So first off, you're responsible for coordinating with 117 organizing units running precinct caucuses for over 4,000 precincts across Minnesota. At this point, under a week out, what does the scope of caucus night look like statewide? How big of an effort is this? Really?
I think the thing I would say for kind of the scope and what this looks like is it's always kind of a crazy proposition every 2 years that we are asked to plan, again, over 4,000 meetings to happen everywhere in the state at the same time on the same night in a Minnesota winter. And it is always a little bit of a, how are we going to do this? But I think the reason that we're always able to do it is I just rechecked my numbers and we have over 2,000 individuals above the precinct level who are volunteers in our party, unique people who care about this work. And while 4,000 is a really big scope and a lot to get done, when we have 2,000 people who have said, I'm willing to do this work all year round around caucuses and really step up to lead, that's how we're able to make it really be successful. And I think that's what we're continuing to see from folks. So there's a lot to get done still. I'm sure there are units who are still making copies. We're still trying to get the last pieces out. We're constantly sending folks emails and trying to get information out. But the answer to how we really do this in the scope is we work with the people on the ground. And that's, I think, the DFL's greatest strength is we have lists of folks who have volunteered to always do this work.
That's fantastic, Sonja. I think you're so right. You know, the people on the ground making it happen. What are you hearing from them right now? And how is the state party supporting them this final week leading up to
Yeah.
caucuses?
I would say we are hearing a few things. I always like to kind of say things as they are because I find it's just easier for all of us. And there's some folks who are scared and there's folks who are nervous. There's a lot of scary, real nerve-wracking things happening in our world. And I'm not one to pretend that those things aren't happening because I don't think we can address them. So we're working with folks through that. But what also is important to note is while that's true, the overwhelming, what I'm hearing from folks is they know how important this is because they know that this is how we make democracy work. Minnesota has decided to protect the grassroots. We have decided that we think having local organizing and organizing at the smallest electoral level that exists is essential to our state, is essential to a functional democracy, and that there's power when we come together and when we build these relationships. So I think we're figuring out those kind of pieces. I know the DFL, and I'm sure we'll continue to talk about, we've sent out emails, we send out communications about what we're doing for safety in those pieces to do what we can. But also there's a lot of optimism about what's coming. And then I will also say we're getting a lot of questions about where do I find this link? I need to copy this thing still. Do you have that document? I'm confused. What time does it actually start at? And we are answering a lot of those practical questions, and we are here to do that. That's our big role, is to try and make sure we get the right information out to folks.
Yeah, absolutely. So on the safety and security of caucuses, thank you so much for bringing that up. It's so important for us to keep that front of mind. I want to say two quick things. One, we know that there are people who don't feel safe to come to caucus this year. And so we're strongly encouraging folks to pass around the non-attendee form and encourage people to fill that out. They should indicate if they want to be a delegate to their organizing unit convention, and then precinct caucus conveners should be encouraged to consider electing those non-attendees into those delegate spots so that we can make sure that their voices are heard. Second, I know we're going to send out more communication today. We sent out a great summary yesterday, more communication today about safety and security. And we're doing everything from, 8,000 constitutional observers have been trained by the DFL, and they are going to self-identify for their precinct caucus folks that they are a trained constitutional observer so that if ICE does show up, that they can do that work. Also, we're going to have, for some sites, we're deploying lawyers. We're going to have a lawyer hotline. We have a DFL hotline. We're going to do everything we can to make these as safe and secure as possible. And if there are ideas that you all have or perspectives you want us to know, please always share that with both myself and Sonja, so we can cover as many of those bases as possible. Obviously, caucus night is. Oh, one more question, Sonja. When is that the gubernatorial preference ballot going to be released? Everybody wants that ballot. That'll be today. I want to say that we're going to get that out today so that you can get it printed and or you can get it projected at Precinct Caucus. There will be two candidates on the gubernatorial preference ballot. Amy Klobuchar is one of those two candidates. Another person who filed named Christopher Seymour is the second. And so we'll get that around to you as well. Obviously, caucus night isn't always perfect, but from your perspective, what does a successful caucus night actually look like, especially in a moment like this?
I think I like to just go back to what is a precinct caucus because I think it's weird words. I've shared this a number of times. I literally Googled it when I started working for the DFL because I was like, I don't know what caucus means and I don't know what precinct means really. And it really is just a meeting of folks. A caucus is just a meeting of folks with shared values, of shared political values. And our precinct is just the smallest boundaries we go in elections. So what I think a successful caucus night is a community coming together and having shared values and building relationships within our communities. I think that's what success is. I'm a rules nerd. If you spend much time with me, you know I know the rules. I spend a lot of time in party rules. There's things that need to happen. But those things are about making sure our communities are represented. So we want to elect delegates to the next level because those delegates' job is to represent your precinct in the party and make sure our precincts are heard in our communities. They're going to elect people to do work in your precincts, your precinct officers for the next 2 years. Their job is to find the Democrats and make sure they vote. That's critical to us making sure that we take away every piece of power that Trump has. And it's also a time to build relationships. Find the people in your community who you care about, and find those folks who have values so you can continue to do the organizing Minnesotans are already doing and those relationships we're already building. But use this night as a chance to kind of continue to do that, I think is success.
So, Sonja, I've been telling people for a while, I think precinct caucus turnout in 2026 is going to be massive because it's an opportunity to take a political action that safeguards us from Donald Trump's presidency. What's your number? Do you have
What's my number?
Yeah. Do you have a prediction? How many people are going to caucus with the DFL?
I think if I was to make a guess, I would guess it'd be close to like 2018. So I guess around, I think that was like 30,000, but I could be surprised by more. I think it could be a pretty big number. And I think that's because I know people in my life, and I literally help run these for years now, have told me that they are going to caucus for the first time after I've spent like 6 years trying to convince them to do this. And they're doing it because they care about their communities. So
Absolutely.
if my personal life is any representation of the other folks who are having those feelings, I'm expecting some high turnout, which is great because it'll mean more people are in the party, more voices are heard, and we can really build and win the election.
Sonja, you mentioned it. You've been spending years working on making sure things like precinct caucuses go smoothly. In this moment, what does this work mean to you personally? And what does it mean to hear from activists and leaders across the state who are showing up despite what we're facing?
I shared last night on our training that this year is feeling the most like 2020 to me, which was not an ideal year for us as we were going into the pandemic and having to figure things out. But something that inspired me that year, and I think is inspiring me again, is that DFLers come together because we care about our communities. We know that there is value in our elected officials and making sure those elected officials represent our communities. And that's what we're trying to do through our processes, and that we are going to protect that. And we've done hard things. I was on the 2020 presidential campaign, and a statement that was said on all of our national calls was, as a mantra, we can do hard things. I've seen DFLers do hard things over and over and over again. And I dream of the day don't have to ask you to do particularly hard things. I hope that day comes. But I have a lot of confidence going into the next few days because I've seen it over and over and over again. And I have the utmost faith and confidence in the folks who are leading this party. And when I mean that, I mean the folks who are really local and doing that hard day to day, even when it's really crazy, even when it's kind of scary work, to help make sure that their community's voices are heard in the political process.
Well said. Sonja Johnson, our Party Affairs Director, thank you so much for joining us on the DFL Daily today. And thanks for everything you're doing to make Tuesday a moment for Minnesotans to come together, stand up, and continue to fight back against this lawless president.